Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Again, I bring back Ellis Whitehead. Hey Ellis, how you doing?
Hey there, Danny. Doing well. What about you?
Yeah, good. We were just having a chat off call, talking about some subjects to cover this week. One of the things, and we've kind of, spoke about this quite a lot in the past, phrase match and why we don't use it, and just trying to kick around that from your perspective as a data scientist as well. So yeah, do you want to explain, let's start off the whys from a data science perspective, why you don't use phrase match in
Yeah.
PPC?
So one of the things that's hardest to come by in PPC for keywords that are not really high search volume is data. So you need clicks and you need orders in order to estimate what is the conversion rate on this keyword. And with phrase match versus broad match. So this is about why we use broad match. And well, we use exact and broad,
Yeah.
and we drop out phrase. So if you have a multi-word key phrase, let's start out with just two words, latte glass. So a latte glass. And a person might then be searching for latte glass or glass latte. And in almost all cases, the search intention is the same, regardless of the order of the words. And so if you are splitting up your, if you're using phrase match, then you need two different phrase match keywords. You need it in both orders in order to match these searches that people are entering in. If you use broad, you can reduce it to a single one so I just alphabetize the words. And so it would be glass latte. And this will match latte glass and glass latte equally well. It used to be people used to say that Amazon would prefer exact match terms over phrase match and phrase match over broad match. We've looked at extensive data and seen absolutely no evidence for that, from which the conclusion is they don't. So if you have a phrase match keyword, Amazon's not going to give preference to yours over a competitor who uses a broad match for the same thing. So just to get rid of that, there's no advantage in terms of Amazon preference that we've seen to phrase match over broad match. And so what you're doing if you use the one broad match keyword instead of the two phrase match keywords is you're now summing up all the clicks together into this one key phrase where you're able to much more quickly make an estimate of, say, twice as quickly, make an estimate of, well, what is the conversion on this search intention? Now, if it's a 3-word, but I mean, that's not necessarily so impressive just to double your data. So you can get to the same point twice as fast. It's good. But if it's a 3-word phrase, then you have your 6 different ways of ordering them. So let's say brown latte glass. So that's one order. And then you can also have as a second one, brown glass latte. And then you can have latte brown glass brown, glass brown latte, and glass latte brown. So those are the 6 different phrase matches.
I'm impressed you managed to remember all of those because I wouldn't have done it. But yeah, go on, say yeah.
So then you would need to have 6 separate phrase matches to cover the whole gamut of a single broad match. And if you do that, you're then splitting up your conversion, the data that you're getting. And of course, one of those is going to get a lot more data than the other, but let's just, for simplicity's sake, say that your data is then split equally over them, over all 6 variants. You're not going to be able to estimate the conversion rate for one variant versus another for 6 times as long. basically. Oversimplifying things, but basically. And so since getting enough data that's like the meat,
Yeah.
then you don't want to be spreading it more than you need to. And so this way we have much better control. We can say, well, what is going to be the conversion rate on this broad match term much faster and with much more confidence than we could if we were using phrase matching.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously the downside of broad, it depends on how aggressive your campaigns are as well. Is that how do you manage that end of the spectrum?
I mean, you're going to be getting fewer impressions for phrase matches, but you're not going to be getting a smaller percentage of bad phrases. It's just you're only matching the bad phrases that happen to match that phrase. Yeah. And since broad is just a matter of a different order, and order does not matter much in search intent, you're not going to generally see a worse performance on broad match terms than on phrase match. And so it may be a little bit worse, but it's not been worse enough that we've seen that to be the case. So I basically say it's only going to be worse in very specific circumstances. In general, it's just fine. So one reason we don't see a difference is because of how we go about negating. And we just we stay on top of negation, and if you're on top of it, then it doesn't matter at all whether you're using phrase or broad with regard to then getting bad clicks.
Yeah. And so for people that are listening, what would be the next steps now if they want to reduce down the data management, if you like?
So there are two of them. One part of this involves being cautious not to mess up your campaigns, and the other is how should you structure them. So with regard to being careful not to mess up your campaigns, the issue here is that if you have a campaign that's running well and has a lot of history, I should say a lot of recent history, like over the last month, then if you start a new campaign with exactly the same keywords, and say you just do broad match instead of phrase match, or it doesn't matter, just exactly the same, it's quite likely that Amazon will not give it the same impressions. Like I was just talking with a client yesterday, they had their most powerful campaign. They had mistakenly archived it in December, recreated it. It hasn't gotten anywhere near the impressions as the one before that. Of course, part of this is just because it was during December, and now, after December, you're not getting as much going on. But that's something that we've often seen for high volume campaigns. It takes time to replace them with the new one. And so if you're going to do this, start them up, let them run in parallel for some period of time. Don't just stop the ones that are already running well.
Yep.
So the other side to this is how to do it. And so I would just say in the future, don't bother with phrase match. In almost all cases, it's worse for you. And so then when you're choosing the broad phrases that you want to match, I would suggest taking the words that you would normally put in a phrase match campaign, and then just alphabetizing them. And so this way you can always keep track. Like it might be that one day you want to add latte glass, and then 2 months later you want to add glass for latte, and you don't remember that you already added latte glass and that they actually mean the same thing. But if you take latte and glass and you alphabetize that, you get glass latte. And you take glass for latte and you drop the words like for, and then again, you have glass latte. And so if you go to add that, it's already there. And so you're not, you don't want to be adding glass latte and latte glass in this, both of them, because then your impressions are just being kind of uselessly split between the two. And what if you're bidding more on one than the other? then you're going to be confusing your data, because Amazon's going to be seeing two different bids for the through its eyes, the same keyword.
Yeah.
And so when you then look at your data, you're going to be getting some clicks on the lower bid one, some on the higher, but what was really your bid? Because you have two different bids on the same keyword. So that's harder to manage.
Cool. That sounds good. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
Nothing else comes to mind at the moment. Nope.
Cool. Guys, thanks for joining us. If you want to find out a bit more about what we do in terms of PPC, go to sellersessions.com/case-studies. Feel free to get in touch. It's danny@databrill.com. Ellis will also be at Seller Sessions Live May 9th. I think we've got about 17 tickets left. If you go to the website, you can click through there, or you can use live.sellersessions.com and purchase from there. I'll see you again in the next few days. Take care.